Sorry.
Are you calling the meeting to order? We have one more minute.
If I just sit and wait.
Yeah. Phone at my office. Let's put my chair over there.
Okay, I have one job. Let's see if I can do that.
We got a couple extras.
Yeah, it does.
See. Good evening, everyone. I'm calling to order a special meeting of the St. Augustine Beach City Commission for Monday, July 27th. The special meeting is for limited topics to review the proposed budget and to work on an ordinance. As such, there will not be general public comments there, but the public will be invited to speak on both topics that we have tonight. And with that, I will get us up to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Beverly, roll call, please.
Yes, ma'am. Mayor England,
Here.
Vice Mayor Costa,
Here.
Commissioner George. Commissioner George?
Hi, I'm here. Sorry, I just had to find the unmute button.
No problem.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rumwell,
Here.
Commissioner Samora.
Here.
Thank you, Beverly. With that, Max, I'll turn this over to you to start the budget discussion.
Yes, Mayor and Commissioners. Basically, what we're asking you to do at this meeting is simply set the tentative millage and the date, time, and place of the public hearing. And we suggest that be September 14th because the first Monday of September is Labor Day holiday. The budget has been based on or built on 2.45 mils. We are recommending that you go to 2.6 to provide a cushion for us because we have a number of unknowns, such as the Ocean Walk Drainage Facility, the Second Street access opening, and what may be coming at us due to this pandemic, a reduction in revenue from certain key state-supplied revenue sources. Our finance director has put the budget together for you. She has prepared a brief slide presentation of the highlights, and I will turn it over to her.
Thank you, Max.
Thank you.
Patty, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for putting the budget together. Good job.
Let me get my budget presentation up. Okay. So I did a brief slideshow just to hit the topics of the budget. We all individually talked about them last week. And as Max said, the budget right now before you is balanced at 2.45. However, we are still awaiting the revenues to come in, the estimates from the state revenue share. And so for that reason, given the reductions that potentially could be there, we are asking that you set the millage higher at 2.6. We should start receiving the estimates in within a week or so, and over the month of August, we will start then tweaking the budget to make it better, to fit for the residents and for the commission. So just some quick, brief demographics that I did pull for the city of St. Augustine Beach. And this is a 5-year estimate. The 2019 estimates were not available yet. They won't come out until September. But the median value owner occupied units, basically the median average price is $390,100 for a home. The median household income is $88,906, and the median family income is $121,650. And the median age range for our city is 45.9. So Just talking really quickly about some of the critical issues that we have here at the city, which are impacting the need for the additional revenue this year. Our reserves are under our 20% threshold that was pointed out by our auditor this year for our FY19 budget. And so in order for us to get that back up and for us to be in compliance, we have 2 years to make that change. This being year one, and then next year, is the deadline for us to bring those dollars back up into the 20% threshold. Obviously, with COVID-19, we are taking a hit this year, so our reserves, remain to, be seen how much money we'll be able to actually put back. When the auditors come in this year, we'll have a better feel for that. Also, emergencies. I hate to say the H word, but hurricanes have impacted us over the past few years, with this year being anticipated a bad year. So that always takes from our money that we have sitting in our savings account. So it's imperative that we get that built back up. Capital project-wise, we have the WEIR, which we've talked about now for a few years. We have secured the funding, and so thanks to Mr. Tredick, we have funding coming from both FEMA and the St. Johns River Water Management District to cover that. But that $2.5 million is an 18-month project that we have a deadline for, and we have to finish it so that we get those monies back from us. In order to pay that out, because we don't get the money in advance from FEMA, we are going to have to go for a short-term loan or line of credit to pay those bills before we get reimbursed. So we're looking at that this coming year.
Pat,
Also-
let me, even with
Yes, ma'am.
the 2.45 millage rate, that even with that,
Yes,
we
ma'am.
would still have to get a loan?
Yes, ma'am. We do not have that in savings. We can't write a check for that kind of money. It's estimated approximately 1.8 million would be cash outlay this year from the city before we start getting the money back. And just to put it in perspective, with regards to FEMA and their reimbursement policy, there is no deadline on how quickly they refund us that money. So we still have a portion of money that's still outstanding from Matthew, which is a couple of years old. So it could take us a couple of years to get that money back into our accounts. And if we have any other emergencies, it would leave the city with nothing. So we absolutely have to have a line of credit or a loan. Also, Ocean Hammock Park, we have $250,000 in the budget for this year, and an 18-month deadline. So, I mean, it's a tight deadline for us to finish these projects. There's a couple that are still pending decisions, and you're going to be talking about that next week in your regular commission meeting. The Ocean Walk drainage issue and the opening of 2nd Street. So those are not in the budget. If we look to put those in the budget, again, that's where the 2.6 and setting it as high as we can this time is very imperative for us to do. And then, of course, COVID-19. It reduced our state revenues. With the way things are going, we can't predict how it's going to impact us in next year. And also our employee exposure. So as our employees are exposed to it, the city still has to pay them for 2 weeks. It's a federal mandate right now. And on top of that, they're not there to do their jobs. So when they're out, we then incur additional costs for temp labor to cover for them. So these are all critical issues at this point for the city to operate. Our total revenue by fund, general fund being the largest, $7,317,237. Road and bridge, $1,562,395. Our debt service fund, we receive a half-cent millage from the residents in their taxes. And then on top of that, we are also taking money from the general fund to subsidize the difference of when the money from the half-cent millage runs out to the time that the bonds are due. So we have several years after the half-cent millage runs out that we will continue to have to pay that debt. And so the general fund continually puts money in there every year to set it aside for those payments in the future. And then the capital projects fund, that is simply the WEIR. So it is encompassing us recording the full debt proceeds that we will receive from the line of credit or the loan, and our share that we will actually expend this year.
Just for the public, would you
Yes.
kind of run quickly through where the money comes from for the general fund and these other, you covered debt service or bond, but where the money comes from for?
So there's going to be another slide that's going to talk a little bit about where our major
Okay.
revenue sources come
Thank
from. So just looking at our property valuation, and I apologize, that is kind of blocking it a little. That's the best it's going to get. I apologize. But, so our property valuation went up this year. In FY '20, 1,379, 667, roughly. And then FY '21, 1,446, 464, 216. Our millage rate, our current millage rate is 2.45. As we discussed, the budget is currently balanced at 2.45. We're suggesting 2.6. And then each tenth of a mill is 144,646. And we value our revenue from the millage at 95% collection. Typically, in the past, we have been successful at receiving 98% of what's billed out, and this year it was back to 95%. Again, that can be attributed to some of the issues with the economy and such. Standard is that you do budget at 95%. So conservatively, I've put it at 95% for this year. Okay, so for the general fund, most of our revenue comes from ad valorem taxes. We, again, just discussing 95% collection, estimated $3,366,000. It's increased approximately $205,000 over prior year. The non-ad valorem, that was increased due to your decision in the last meeting to change the non-ad valorem for the solid waste. So it is slightly up, $301,000 over prior year. That certainly does help with the trash department. Our state revenues, $813,898. Now, that is estimated. I just selected a number. I did my best at estimating based upon what we've received so far and the changes due to the reduced revenues. And I've estimated between 10 and 20% reduction for this current year, roughly $138,709. And that makes up 23.77% of the general fund revenue. So it is a significant portion of revenue that we do receive that we're waiting on, and they are still debating it. They're in conference out in Tallahassee to make those estimates at this point. Another thing just to keep in mind is when those estimates are provided to us, they are strictly that. There are no guarantees. So they're looking at it at a higher level for what they think, our economy will do and how our city will fare. And so even though that number may come in slightly higher when they issue the estimates, there's no guarantee that that money will actually be received. Due to the COVID, we did have a reduction of about $30,000 so far. And then they took away 1 month of revenue share, which was about $15,000. So they can easily take that away. So the estimates are provided to us for budgeting reasons, but they're not guaranteed. And then our electric utility tax and franchise fees from Florida Power and Light. I did estimate a 10% decrease. And again, it's just the effects of COVID-19, trying to be a little bit conservative on where we may see some reductions. Now, as far as the revenues to answer your question, the revenues regarding road and bridge, much of the road and bridge money comes from a subsidy that the general fund is putting into the road and bridge fund. We receive local option gas tax, and we have no direct revenue source for the road and bridge. So if we receive a grant, we would have income going into that department. But for the most part, it is subsidized by the general fund. So it's very limited with what we have going in there. The general fund makes up the majority of our revenue coming in. Just kind of breaking down overall salaries and benefits, $4,704,000, operating $1,643,000, capital $5,391,281. That does include the $4,328,281 for the Weir project, which is set up in a capital projects fund. And so our total expenditures are $11,739,626 going into this year. Briefly, our salary and benefits, FY20, $2,865,000, FY21 proposed salaries are $3,020,000. This is based on a 1.6% COLA and a step/merit increase of 3.2% that's in the budget in front of you. Obviously, that's presented for your review and decision further down the line. We also had a significant reduction in benefits. Our benefits overall from FY20, which include, these numbers include the FICA portion, FRS, health, dental, vision, and life insurance. So this is just a total number. So it is down from $1,408,376 to $1,380,313. A decrease in our health insurance costs, 1.99%, but then on the offset, we also had an increase in FRS. Now, those numbers are fed down to us from Tallahassee, so those are numbers that we have to comply with. We can't negotiate those rates.
And FRS is the Florida Retirement System?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We also went through a process earlier in the year to bid out our workers' comp insurance, our liability insurance, and our auto insurance, property insurances. So with that, it did come with an increase of roughly $3,500 for our workers' comp this year. Operating expenditure variances, there was an increase over a prior year of $92,000. Just hitting some of the highlighted numbers, as I said, we did negotiate out our and bid out our insurances. So property and liability, there's an increase of $33,615. Beverly was instrumental in going through all of our equipment and properties to make sure that everything was covered. As well as we did increase from $1 million to a $2 million coverage. We did also have some IT software services that increased $15,000. With the new network and server upgrade, we do have some managed services that we are going to be paying for going forward, and a little bit more money out of our pocket to make sure that that is maintained the way it needs to be. And then there were some small increases in users for Microsoft. MCSJ had a roughly 3% increase, so about $15,000 increase. We did include roadway safety improvements of $25,000. Now, that was listed as a capital expense, but it doesn't qualify as capital. So it would be $5,000 or more with at least a 1-year lifespan. And given the small projects and things that we're looking at doing, it's not a $25,000 one-time, we're, spending $25,000 on one item. So it is more an operating expense. So that is in there, and this is to do maybe some road improvements, speed humps, things of that nature. We had a CPI for our recycling contract, plus we add users continually every month. I'm estimating roughly $10,000, and then an increase in temp labor, roughly another $10,000. Those two are categorized under outside contract labor. So it's roughly a $20,000 increase year over year. And then we are estimating that when we finish the park improvements, we will have an additional bathroom in Ocean Hammock, which about halfway through the year will add expenses to us: electric, water, utilities, maintenance, those things. So we are estimating another $3,000 in that department. So capital improvements make up the bulk of the budget. As far as they're in mostly public works, but there are a lot of projects that need to be taken care of. So we have the first one, and the part of it that's covered up is drainage improvements at roughly $115,000. Electrical improvements of $25,000, and that is to improve the lighting for the Christmas holiday lights that we have up. Every year we have some expenses that we need to do, and so those are improvements that are needed for this year. Lakeside Park walkway needs to be redone. It's at a point where it's becoming unsafe, and that is roughly $30,000. And then we have resurfacing of $360,000 for many of the different streets within the city. A matrix message board which alerts drivers on the streets that there is road work happening, and that's roughly $18,000. That piece of equipment is many years old, and it is in desperate need of replacement. We've pieced it together several times, and it's at the point that it just doesn't work any longer. And then again, Ocean Hammock Park, $250,000, and Mizell Pond. We also have in the police department the MDT computers. This has been pushed out of our budget for 2 years. We are at a critical stage, and we are spending more to fix them than what it would be for us to replace them. It's time for us to replace them. That will give us roughly 20 new units over at the police department. And then we have a capital lease for vehicles, 3 of them, $150,000. What you will see in the budget is a $150,000 expense because of the way we have to record our capital leases, and an offset to our debt proceeds for the same $150,000, and then you will see an expense line item for roughly $30,000 in the debt service. That is just a GASB rule of how we have to record our debts.
Patty,
ma'am.
on those capital expenditures, do you know off the top of your head, or can ballpark, what percentage have been carried over 1 year, 3 years? Or what percentage is a carryover that's not a new item we've just added?
I think that's something that probably Bill would have better information on, and
Okay.
I am at the end of my slides anyway with questions.
Okay.
So the specific managers can actually speak to which projects they've had to push, particularly this year because of the COVID and the decreased revenues.
And from previous,
And from previous years, yes, ma'am.
okay, all right.
All right?
Thank you, Patty. Commissioners, any questions for Patty while she's still available here? I'll go to the commissioners on the phone. Commissioner George, any questions for our finance director?
Thank you, Mayor. I had a very comprehensive meeting, and I don't have any new questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Rumwell, any questions for our finance director?
No, and Patty, none of the numbers have changed since our meeting, is that correct?
Correct. They are still the same.
Okay, no questions.
Vice Mayor, questions?
Not at this time.
None here?
Okay, all right. Then I will try to get Mr. Tredick, Public Works, on the capital outlays. What percentage do you think are estimated to be carryover items from previous budget years?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we deferred $325,000 worth of projects. The only one that is not in the budget is the third lane drainage improvements. So the actual, from the items on the list that were carried forward, that's $215,000.
Okay. All right, thank you. I don't think there's any other departments that have carryover items other than maybe IT.
I had a question for Mr. Tredick.
Okay.
Mr. Tredick, when we met individually, I thought that you had said you would provide a list of the projects specifically under drainage improvements and resurfacing, the specific streets that were due to be resurfaced, and then the drainage improvements, exactly which areas were targeted for improvement?
I think those weren't, they talked about being in the comments, and, I mean, I can list those right now if they're
Okay.
not showing up.
I don't have them anywhere.
So on the resurfacing, there's 4 proposed roadways for resurfacing: Michler Boulevard, Atlantic Alley, Tides End Drive, and Oceanside Circle. A portion of Michler was deferred, the northernmost portion, but we're also looking at trying to do the rest of Michler Boulevard also, as it's in poor condition. So those 4 projects make up the $360,000. The project that we had, looking at drainage, the $115,000 is composed of 11th Street, which is $90,000 of it, and drainage improvements in various locations, which is $25,000. Last year, the 11th Street was a project that was deferred, and it's being picked up here as a drainage improvement instead of a resurfacing project. We would have had to redo the roadway in order to replace the pipes, so we're considering it a drainage project this year versus a paving project.
Okay, thank you so much for the specifics. I have just a general question, and it's partly related to the budget, but not, I guess it's a bigger thing. Joe Howell at one time had a master plan for addressing the drainage issues as well as the street repairs. Do you still have that file or access to that file?
I do. I have the stormwater master plan. There's several projects in that plan that have been accomplished, and there's still some to go. So,
Would it be possible for you to provide a copy of that to the commissioners?
absolutely.
Thank you.
If I could, looking at my numbers, I'm not seeing where I included that. Oh, I did, never mind. Take that back. I was
Okay.
thinking I might have missed the 11th Street on the numbers I gave you before, but it's in there.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Tredick? Commissioners, I open it up for any further questions or comments you'd like to make before we go to public comment. Just speak up. All right, hearing none, then we'll go to public comment on the proposed budget.
I have one speaker card so far. Robert Venato.
Mr. Tredick, thank you very much for your help, service to the community. You just
If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Robert Ignato, Lee Drive, 39 Lee Drive, St. Augustine, Florida, 32080. Apologies. I'm new at this. Thank you very much. Good job. Appreciate your help. You had mentioned that Michler was scheduled to be repaved, but North Michler is being deferred. Was it deferred, or is it going to be deferred? I don't know why it's counting.
Commissioner, you want me to?
Actually, your 3 minutes is, normally we don't put our staff on the spot
Oh, I'm
during
sorry.
public
Oh, like I
comment.
said, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right. So, you're welcome to public comment, and then we can
Okay.
have staff
Let me
follow up
rephrase
with
that
you.
question. I apologize.
I'll answer it, I just wanted
Okay.
to get your...
Okay, well, I'm sorry if I screwed things up. I just wanted to express that North Mickler looks really bad, and it really needs it. Of all of Mickler, it needs it the worst. So I would just like to put my dibs in for North Mickler. Thank you very much.
I'm happy to address that.
Okay.
North Mickler was deferred to the upcoming year. It was in the budget for this year, and because we put a hold on our capital expenditures, it will be done with the rest of Mickler next year.
Any further?
Michler, I mean.
I have no other speaker cards, but if anybody would like to come up to the podium and fill one out after?
Comment, Clifford Wright from 8 Lee Drive, and
Can you state your full, can you state your full address for the record?
The microphone, please. In the microphone,
Clifford
please.
R. Wright, 8 Lee Drive. And, well, we were glad to see that you did, respond to our comments of last week at the regular meeting, and see that it's on the pending side. Can you explain, what does that mean? And I don't mean to put you on the spot or whatever, but the pending situation, when does it go from pending to something that may happen with the drainage situation, which has caused such a problem? And it's critical for our neighborhood because everyone on the west side of 8 Lee Drive, every home could be flooded because of
Sir,
this inadequate.
I don't think we can answer your questions. We don't know the answers just yet. There hasn't been a presentation on that issue. And right now, we're discussing our proposed budget and not that particular issue.
Oh, well-
We're working on the particular issue you're so concerned about, and so are we.
I see that, but this is for the 2021 budget.
Yes.
And we certainly hope that it's included.
And we
in that
don't have
before.
numbers in the budget for that issue you're talking about. We've got to get more information and gather it.
And there is a study underway. Let's see, okay. We'll hope
Thank you, sir. Anyone else want to address the proposed budget? All right. I will close public comment on that issue and open it up for commissioners to talk about how they feel about the proposed millage rate. The city manager has suggested that we set the millage rate at 2.6, although there's a balanced budget at 2.45. Max, any further comments?
No, I just wanted to remind the commissioners that there may be a proposal coming to you for body cameras for police personnel. That has not been put in the budget. We don't know yet what the cost will be. And much will depend upon the upcoming race for sheriff, et cetera, and who the new chief will be if that comes to pass. But I just wanted to remind you about the body cameras.
Right, so in summary, unknown expenses that are not in this budget are body cameras.
Cameras.
Maybe perhaps the drain pipe on Michler, and any expenses that may be associated with Second Street.
Yes.
Any other, Mr. Tredick, any other public works expenses that perhaps are not covered and could be a surprise?
No, Mayor, those are the big three.
Okay?
The others are being deferred because they're less critical, the other projects that were in our original tabulation. So those are the big three that we probably need to have some cushion in our budget for if we want to consider including them in the budget.
And on page 29 of the package we received, you said that only in the pink is included in the budget. None of those capital outlays in the yellow or the white, the desirable, none of those are in the budget.
That is correct, Mayor.
So how long have we been deferring third lane drainage issues?
In the case of the third lane, Public Works went out and built 120 feet of pipe with materials we had on hand and handled the worst of the erosion issues associated with third lane. And so while we still need to do that project, the urgency of it is reduced. And I'm comfortable with putting that off till FY 2022 so that we can handle some things that are a little more critical. And in our drainage budget, we do have $25,000 for various locations, so we would still have the ability to tackle small things like 100 feet of pipe or something like that. So, I mean, gives us that flexibility. So I'm comfortable with deferring that.
Okay.
There's also with the Second Street, if Second Street starts opening up, that would be a good time to pipe the ditch because it's in the backyards of the people that would be on Second Street. So the timing of that would work out better if we let it develop, put in pipe as we go.
And then any digging you do you have any estimates in here on burying utilities or anything? Because that, we kind of talked about in the past, and I know Commissioner George that's been one of her favorite topics is smart city, and anytime you dig, bury utilities.
I do not have anything in this budget to convert from overhead to underground. Utilities, that is.
Okay. So that is, water's not going away. So, okay. Thank you. And anyone else have any questions?
I'd just like to say that's a good point, Mayor. Thank you for bringing that up.
I don't forget you.
We need to take advantage of
I will
every
not
time we
forget you.
break ground and try to minimize the expenses and maximize the benefit to the community.
Well, if I could say, as we develop Second Street, a good example, that could be something we explore for Second Street, is to have the utilities be underground. I don't know what the difference in cost is going to be at this time. I was speaking towards retrofitting places that were already established. I don't have anything in the budget for a retrofit, but we can certainly look towards underground for new construction.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Tredick. Okay,
Question.
anyone want to,
Can you hear me?
yes, Commissioner Runwell, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. The other question I have is, I know last year in the budget, we had $35,000 to a rendering of a public works building, and I just want to make sure that is not in this budget for this year. I think we have too many other major projects that we have to deal with that I don't want to see that $35,000 this year for a rendering of a public works building, even though I know we've all talked about it, but I think it's important that we take that money and use it for drainage or other projects that may be unforeseen as they come down the pike.
It is not in the budget that's presented to you.
Perfect, thank you.
Max, can you talk about with the 2.45, how much will, we need to put money in reserves. We absolutely have to have some money in reserves. So the 2.45, I just want to point that out to the commissioners, what maybe we might be able to be put in reserves.
Patty, if I'm reading this correctly, this is the page you gave me just before the meeting started?
Yes, it is, but what the mayor is asking is how much we have in our current budget for contingencies and going
Yes.
back into our reserves. And so right now, with the budget balance the way that it is at 2.45, I have allocated $183,000 going back into our reserves. We are around 350. We need to have about, it costs us about $450,000 to run per month. So we need to have a significant amount. This will certainly add to that. And I'm hopeful with the COVID and not eroding the revenue, perhaps we will have some that we'll be able to put back in for this year as well. But unfortunately, we're not going to know that until the last minute because our revenue that we receive from the state comes in 2 months behind. So we're going to be into November before we even know what the final close of business is for September 30th for FY20. So I know it looks like a large number, but it is something, again, we have 2 years to set that additional funding aside, so we need to have a big number in that category at this time.
Okay,
That big number, so the 20% threshold that we need to meet,
Excuse
what was our shortfall there? Was that the 350 or?
We were at roughly 12%, so we need to be at 20, so we were around 12, 13% at the end of FY19.
So in terms of dollars, how much is that?
Roughly $350,000 was left in the reserves for last year.
That's what was in the reserves at
Correct.
the end of last year?
Correct. So we're looking at trying to get to at
Another
least,
20% of that number? I'm not.
it's 20% of our operating expenses for the city.
I'd heard like we need 2 months, at least,
Roughly.
2 months in reserves.
Yes, ma'am.
Of operating expenses, which would be
$800,000.
$800,000.
And we've only got 350 in there right now.
Roughly
Thank you,
350.
that's what I was looking to
Right,
get to.
right.
Yes.
Great.
That's, yes.
Yes.
And I think we need to all be aware of what we need.
Correct. And so, again, we're hoping that we will have a significant amount that will go back in from this year, but it's going to be dependent on the shortfall of revenue from the state and other sources. And we will not have that number, a good number of how much is going to go back towards that reserve until we finish our audit in January of 2021. So while $183,000 being allocated into that for this coming year, for FY21 looks like a large amount, it may not even be enough.
It won't,
It's-
it'll get us maybe to 1 month.
It'll get us
Maybe,
close.
if we're lucky.
It'll get us
And we need
closer.
2 months.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just for clarity for everybody.
Great, thank you.
And barring any emergencies that make us take out of our reserves.
Right.
For this year.
All right?
Yes, and keep in mind that the millage you set tonight is tentative. You will have 2 more opportunities in September to reduce that millage, if you so choose, or we find better estimates of revenues in August. So we'll have more up-to-date information for you in September. So I need to emphasize that the 2.6 is not firm. It's simply tentative.
Right, and the millage we do set becomes, the final millage becomes effective January 1 and
No, it becomes effective October 1.
October 1
Of
of
this
next.
year.
Of this year?
Yes.
But the taxes run from, okay, October, it's not due and payable until November of
December.
21.
No, November, December, or January, you pay early, you get a discount if you pay early on your
Right,
property
but that's
taxes.
of 21, right?
FY21.
Okay.
But we'll
Thank
be
you.
paying it this year, or next year if you so choose.
Okay,
And also, if I may, this is the highest that we can set it. So what we set tonight, if we come back if we set it at 2.45 tonight, and then we find out that the shortfalls are more than the 10 to 20% that I've estimated, we can't go higher. So tonight is the highest level that we can set our millage at, and then we absolutely have an opportunity 2 more times to reduce it going forward. And as we get further updates from the state, we will be massaging the numbers to make sure that they are, in line with where the commission ultimately wants to end up in September.
thank you. Commissioners, I'll go ahead and state that I'm very concerned about reserves. I'm very concerned about drainage projects and water projects that are not in the budget, And so I would recommend that we set the millage for right now at 2.6 and get some better numbers, because it's really important. We've kicked the can down the road a couple of years now, I know. And it's really important that we put money back in for reserves. And so I'd recommend to you that we approve the proposed budget right now at 2.6 millage rate, and I will open the floor for anyone who wants to speak for or against that.
Mayor, this is Commissioner George. I just need to echo what you said. I've been a real advocate, an adamant one for many years about holding the millage. Unfortunately, these are, unusual times which warrant, I believe, certainly at this stage, an increase regardless of my expectation that my opinion that way will carry over to the final budget adoption. But certainly right now, we're looking at some substantial losses of revenue. We're going to have some of those questions answered from the state as we heard later on, but we really need that flexibility. So I echo your support for this budget and the 2.6 millage at this time.
Anyone else like to speak up at this time? Vice Mayor, I see you want to say something.
I sure do. Yes, the budget is concerning. Our situation, our financial situation is extraordinarily concerning. However, the deficiency in the city reserves is not at all the fault of the citizens, nor is the financial situation that we're in entirely due to COVID. So let's just be honest with ourselves here. I do see the need for replenishing the reserves. But keep in mind that we have already levied a non-ad valorem tax for the increase in trash, which if the 301,000 increase for trash is correct, that would equate to a 0.21 increase in millage if 0.1 mill is 144,646. So we're already with the 2.45 plus the increase for the trash at 2.66. And I understand how it all works, that we need to set our initial millage rate high, and then we work to get it within something that's acceptable for all of us. But just keep in mind, with that increase that we've already given for trash, the 2.45 plus the 0.21 for the trash is equal to 2.66. So if you want to do 2.6, I mean, that's going to be 2.81 in total actuality for our citizens, just so that we know what we're doing, is all that I'm saying.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a quick question though, doesn't that, refresh my recollection, doesn't that not come into play until the next year's budget?
No, the trash, remember at the last meeting we had, is going to go on the next tax bill, which comes out in November.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Okay, to move this along, I'll entertain
Oh, no, those are good points, and just in a counterpoint to that, the additional money that's coming in from the non-ad valorem, at this point in time, because we don't have any better information, is offset by Patty's estimate of the lost revenue coming in due to the state revenue sharing and the electric utility. So it's pretty much gone before we even got it, right? So I think at this point in time, there's too much out there that's unknown. I think it's going to become a lot clearer through the month of August and before our next meeting. I really only see the only prudent move right now would be to make a motion to approve the tentative millage at 2.6.
Is that a formal motion?
That is a formal motion.
I will second that. Roll call, please.
Yes, ma'am. Mayor England,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Casca,
Yes.
Commissioner George,
Yes.
Commissioner Rumwell,
Yes.
and Commissioner Samora.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Commissioners. I think the next topic is, Beverly, I think you have something you want to just talk about on medical?
We went out to bid, as requested by the commission, on May 4th, and for all of our medical insurances, we did get back responses on July 1st at 3 p.m. from the Bailey Group, Florida Municipal Interest Trust, Owen and Associates, McGriff Insurance Services, and Bright Benefits. We did have a couple that they only gave us estimates because they said they couldn't truly get the numbers without having them, UHC, give them the same numbers as the Bailey Group. So they only gave us estimates, so we disqualified them. On the scoring that we had was based on price, current coverage, employee co-payments, employee out-of-pocket payments, prescription costs, and in-network and out-of-network insurance company ratings. So we recommend that you approve with the awarded bid for Florida Municipal Insurance Trust. We saved approximately $60,000 from that, from the current provider, and that would be our recommendation. We also got where all our deductibles are rolling over to January 1st of 2021, because they are saying that they didn't want us to stop at October and then have to start another deductible in January, so that is a big benefit as well. And they also are bringing down our hospitalization and urgent care deductibles, which helps quite a bit for the employees. So if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
And is that a one-year contract, or how many years?
It is a one-year contract. Nobody would do over 2 years. I asked for 2 years plus one extended year, but nobody will do that, do the insurance benefits there, because you never know what's going to happen in the next year with those that are covered.
And I think you told me that all the doctors are in the network.
The same network, it's the same company, United Healthcare, and we're very pleased with what we have, although we've been dealing with the Bailey Group for a long time, and they've been a wonderful company and very helpful, and I really do appreciate them, but just with things the way they are, we do recommend that you go with FMIT.
Beverly, I just wanted to applaud your efforts. I know this took a lot of time and diligence on your part in investigating the cost comparisons, and it's always nice when we have choices. And I'm really happy and pleased. I know that there's other cities as well as the county who are actually increasing the percentage that the employees need to pay. And so that we don't have to do that is really commendable. Thank you.
We appreciate it very much, too, the employees. I believe that Mark Bailey is here. He'd like to say a word if you have a moment.
Thank you, Beverly. Good evening,
Mr.
Mayor.
Bailey, welcome.
Vice Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Mark Bailey, number 1 16th Street, and I'm here tonight to tell you that you're absolutely making the right decision in this change. Beverly and her team did a great job, and we too have enjoyed the partnership that we've had we look back at the time period, it's been 25 plus years. There was a year there that we lost the coverage and were able to become your broker. Excuse my hair, by the way. I've been quarantined, I haven't been back to the barber shop yet, but It has been just a wonderful partnership. We appreciate your trust and the opportunity to be able to reduce costs for the city, for the taxpayers, for your employees. And as you mentioned, to be able to stay in the same network, that transition makes it so much easier. FMIT, being a self-insured trust, you were able to be a part of a group and have reduced costs available to you based on their experience. So it's a real win for you. And I just wanted to thank Beverly and Patty and all the department heads, and Max in particular, you for all the years of support as well. I will tell you, we met 30 plus years ago, I think. And our little town, little city has changed quite a bit, but when I'm driving down the road and I see Max walking down the road with his bag of trash, it reminds me that we're still the same wonderful community that we've always been. So we really appreciate it on behalf of the entire team and Marcia Dixon in particular. And I want to make sure that Beverly, and the FMIT team knows that we're here to help in the transition in any way we possibly can. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. That's very gracious of you, and I'm sure we'll be doing business again we'll partner on something.
I may be retired by then.
All righty. I think other commissioners, any other commissioners have anything to add or say on this decision?
I just want to say thank you to Beverly for taking the time to go through it, and I also appreciate Mr. Bailey being there as well. We try to keep things local. I think that's something that I pride myself on, and I can't speak for the rest of y'all, but knowing you all, I know that's something that you all do as well. But talking to Beverly and then going through the budget with each department head and getting their feedback from their employees, everybody seemed to be on board with this. So I think it's a great opportunity. It's a new page in the chapter of health insurance for the city, but I think it's a win-win, and I applaud Beverly again for taking the time to get this done. So thank you.
Mr. Taylor, does this need a motion and a vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'll make a motion that we approve the medical insurance of the FMIT as proposed.
I'll second.
I think Commissioner Rumwell gave us a second, I believe. Is that what I heard?
Yes, Mayor.
All right. Roll call vote then, please, Beverly?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor Eaglin?
Yes?
Vice Mayor Casca?
Yes.
Commissioner George?
Yes.
Commissioner Rumwell? Hello? Commissioner Rumwell?
We might have lost him.
Commissioner Zamora?
Yes.
Commissioner Rumwell?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously.
Right. The last item on our agenda is to go back and review the resolution that we approved in our last regular meeting and look at the ordinance. And Mr. Taylor, would you walk us through what we need to do on these two items?
Yes, we have the ordinance that we passed at the last meeting. That will put us in a spot where there'll be no question of the legitimacy of the ordinance. And the resolution is the mechanic that turns it on and off. So in that resolution, you get to set whether you want to put any baselines that would turn it off, whether you want to leave it on for a certain amount of time, whether you want to sunset it. And you have those choices. But it's basically keyed in, and it gets turned on and off by resolution, so you can do it at one regular meeting. And the ordinance will create an emergency statute that allows you to require masks when you want to, and then turn it on and off by resolution.
Explain, I thought the resolution that we passed at our last regular meeting, I thought it became effective immediately or the next day. And this one says it's effective on August 4th. So can you explain the difference, please?
Correct. We currently have already passed a resolution that requires the wearing of masks in the city, but
That one's done,
that one is done, and so
Okay.
that is in place and in effect.
all right?
Once we pass the ordinance, we'll be on a different layer. We will not be worried about any of our emergency powers, and so there's some small question about the legitimacy of it. Once we pass the ordinance, we remove all the legitimacy questions, and that ordinance, it requires a separate resolution so that you can turn it on and off.
Okay. Any commissioners have any further questions about the ordinance and the resolution attached to it that is before you?
So, Mr. Taylor, I had sent an email to you. I had a question about, on page 7, the second to the last paragraph, where it refers to entered into an agreement in support of the Pledge St. Johns County, which says that the Board of Commissioners did that. It's also on page 11, the third to the last paragraph. I actually did a request for that agreement, and the response was there are no records. So what they did do is they are supporting the Pledge St. Johns County, but the Pledge St. Johns County was actually created by the VCB and Chamber of Commerce, not the St. Johns County Board of Commissioners. So I think that instead of that phrase, it just needs to be, and supports the Pledge St. Johns County.
I apologize if I didn't reply. I think I replied to Max, but either way, and I thought I replied to you as well. There's no legal difference between the two. So if you're more comfortable with omitting that language, I'm completely fine with changing it to the wording you had suggested.
I think just the single word, and supports the Pledge St. Johns County, kind of makes it more
Yeah.
clear.
I'd accept that as a friendly amendment, although it's, at this point, it's for the commission, so.
Sure.
I don't think it makes any legal difference.
Okay.
To the commissioners on the phone, any questions about the ordinance and supporting resolution?
No questions, Mayor, but maybe our city attorney can make some comment about that lawsuit that was dismissed regarding this issue.
I believe, well, are you talking about the one in Palm Beach County where they have approved their city ordinance down there and found it to be constitutional?
Yes, yeah, I know that there had been some concern in the initial discussions with our commission regarding whether we would be exposing the city to liability for taking any unconstitutional action. And so I'd just like it clarified for the public that the court has already, at least in that particular case, found that ordinance not to be unconstitutional. So if you could speak to that and how similar our ordinance is and whether you think we're in any risk at this point.
I believe that they're very similar. The same things that we're looking to protect here is people's health. That's a primary area of government regulation. The requirement for masks is small and doesn't create a great burden, so that will allow it to pass legal scrutiny. I do not expect that this will have any valid legal challenges. There may be legal challenges for political reasons, but I do not expect them to ultimately prevail.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make sure that was stated on the record for anyone watching at home or anyone who didn't hear that update. So thank you. That's all I have on this. Otherwise, I'd go ahead and make a motion to approve the ordinance draft.
I think we need
I think we need to have it read, though.
Yeah, right.
I just have one more question. So if we already have a resolution in place and it's working because we're getting compliance, I'm sorry, can you explain again why we need to have an ordinance?
The city of St. Augustine Beach does not have clarified emergency powers, and as such, there's some legal question as to whether or not we can pass by resolution an emergency resolution. We've done it, and for the most part, people are complying, but the ordinance will take away any question that there's any illegitimacy to it. This is an ordinary power that the city can use when they go through the normal process. And so by doing that, the ordinance and the accompanying resolution will allow you to turn it off, on and off by resolution and eliminate any question of the validity of the mask ordinance.
And Mayor, do we need public comment on this?
Yes. Yes, thank you. Before we go to reading the ordinance and the motion, if there's anyone who wishes to speak on this topic, please come forward. Seeing none, I'll ask you to read the ordinance. Mr. Taylor?
All right. It's an ordinance of the City of St. Augustine Beach, Florida, making findings of fact, adding to the city's code of ordinances, Section 13-6, to require the use of face coverings, providing for codification, and providing an immediate effective date.
And then, Commissioner George, your motion, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance as presented on second reading.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call vote, please.
Yes, ma'am. Mayor England,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Casca,
No.
Commissioner George,
Yes.
Commissioner Rumwell, Commissioner Rumwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Samore.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Thank you, Commissioners, and thank you to the public for being here tonight. And I think this, Max, does this?
Do we need a separate motion for the resolution?
Correct. You do
You
need a
do?
separate, yes.
We need a separate, okay. I thought it was incorporated.
I did not state it in the motion, just because it's not part of the ordinance, but I will make a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
And I'll second that motion.
All right. Roll call vote again. Beverly?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor England,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Casca,
I think that I missed something in the first one, because there was no exclusions, but I see them in this resolution. Yes,
so you're, it is a yes.
yes.
Okay. Commissioner George,
Yes.
Commissioner Rumwell,
Yes.
and Commissioner Samora.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you all. That's really good work. And I believe our 32080 zip code, I've been watching the numbers, and we're a good community. We're fairly good shape. All right, Max, does that conclude, or is there something else we need to do tonight, like set a meeting date?
Well, yes, I also wanted to make sure you set the operating millage at 2.60 tentative. We also need to set the debt millage at 0.50.
Okay, well, we did set the operating at 2.6.
0.6.
Now you need a motion for the debt millage.
Yes, that's the millage that will provide the income so we can continue to pay the debt from previous years.
Okay, I don't think there's a lot of discussion on that one,
No.
but any commissioner want to ask questions or discussion or make a motion on the debt millage rate?
I just have a quick question, Mayor.
Okay,
When does that sunset for Ocean Hammock Park?
I think the commission the citizen approval of the debt expires in 2027 or 28. 28, yeah. It was a 20-year approval.
Is there a reason why, Max, Mayor through you, is there a reason why that is sunsetting before the obligation of the debt is paid off?
Because the wording of the referendum set it for 20 years only. Meaning when the question was given to the voters in 2008, I believe, or 6, it was worded in such a way that it was in effect for only 20 years. That's what they approved.
and
Okay.
didn't we have some existing, didn't we buy the property afterwards? Or there was a change in the, maybe not in the millage rate for debt, but we refinanced that debt, brought down the interest rate, and didn't we roll in some other money or something?
I think we went to the Florida League of Cities and got, yeah, that was it.
We
went-
refinanced and added the price for the park, Ocean Hammock Park, right? We bought that
That was
after
part,
2008.
but we had a whole bunch of projects like this new city hall, for example,
Right,
in drainage and road repair. And I remember we went to the Florida League of Cities and we pledged the communication service tax as to pay off the debt, revenue from that. Then we went to the League of Cities for another issue of financing, and we used the electric franchise fee for that debt. But when we went to more debt, we had to go to the voters, for them to approve a millage, because we had no other significant revenue source to pledge other than property taxes. And we did buy the land, Ocean Hammock Park,
after 2008.
yes, and we paid for part of that with savings.
Okay, yes, I remember that.
And, but we couldn't buy it all. We bought it in stages, so many acres here and then the final acreage, I think in 2009.
Commissioner Rumwell, does that help you with some of the history on the debt?
Yeah, I've gotten phone calls from people asking why does that sunset before the obligation is paid? And so I just wanted it to be known on the record that it was because it was purchased after, it was in phases. So the answer is what I got is what I wanted to hear. So that's all I just wanted to make sure, Mayor.
Okay,
And the answer really is the voters gave us only 20 years. And if we wanted to continue that, we'd have to go back to them
right,
and ask them to approve another referendum.
okay. All right, I'll make a motion to approve the millage for the debt service at .50.
That's right, .50, half a mil.
I'll second that.
Roll call vote, please. Beverly?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor England,
Yes?
Vice Mayor Casca,
Yes?
Commissioner George,
Yes.
Commissioner Rumwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Samora.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
And finally, have you approved the date and time for your budget meeting? That has to go on the notice that the property appraiser sends out. That's item E on the agenda. Setting the date and time for the first public hearing on the budget.
And Max, when do we normally do that? In August
No,
or
ma'am.
September?
September, usually the second Monday, because the first Monday is a holiday, Labor Day. So you usually hold the first public hearing on the budget the second Monday, and it's the first item on the agenda, and you sometimes hold a meeting at 5:01 PM.
Is everyone available the second Monday in September?
Will that be our regular commission meeting day?
Okay,
Because
so
the
that's a
7th is-
regular meeting, so you wanted a different,
No,
about,
no, it is a regular meeting day, Commissioners, but if you hold your budget public hearing before 6 PM, then you can get the budget out of the way and then go into your regular meeting at, say, 6.
Max, we have so many unknowns in this budget. Do you think we can hold a budget meeting at 5:01 PM and get done in an hour?
I'm sure you can. I have faith in my commission.
I would argue against that. Isn't August, aren't we going to, the agenda from August is short because the next day the voting machines come in?
That's right.
Okay, so we have things stacking up on our regular commission meeting days. I think it needs to be a separate day.
Can we do Tuesday, since we'll probably continue from Monday anyways?
That will work better.
And you're talking about September.
We cannot do that because the St. County School Board is meeting that day and you cannot have a conflict.
That's right.
Budget meeting conflict, right?
Okay. And is the 14th the earliest, Max, that we can do it?
That depends on the trim schedule. Is the 14th the earliest, do you?
It would be fine. We get down to, after we have that meeting, as far as the scheduling and advertising of the final setting of that, we have to advertise within 15 days, and then we have to hold a meeting within 2 to 5 days after the advertisement
Right.
gets placed. Is it something, and I'm maybe out of order here, but is it something that we could do on the 14th? But then, if we have to carry something over to that Tuesday for the regular commission meeting, we wouldn't be going up against the St. Johns County School Board meeting conflict, which would,
Yeah, your regular meeting could be done on Tuesday. But I think in terms of the revenues situation, we're going to know better than we know today how much of a decrease we're going to have in revenue.
It's expenditures that, I know I'm more concerned about expenditures and what we're looking at this year.
Well, the revenues, though, will control the expenditures,
Okay.
because we can't spend what we don't have.
True.
and I'm not opposed to having another individual session with each of you once we get better numbers to have a better feel for it, so that going into the meeting on the 14th, you're
Okay.
fully, apprised of what's happening with the revenues and the expenditures.
Okay. All right, so we would set the regular commission meeting for Monday, the 14th of September.
Well, that's normally would be your regular meeting.
And with the budget meeting at 5:01.
Right.
And the regular commission meeting at 6 PM. And then if the regular meeting needs to carry over, it would carry over till Tuesday, the 15th.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
All right. Does anyone have any objection to that? Beverly?
I was just asking about the second final hearing. I don't know if you want to set that right now or
No, I wouldn't do that now, Beverly.
But tentatively, so we can put it in a calendar, when would
I
that
would.
be?
Oh, you mean the second meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
What we were thinking about is September 23rd. It's a Wednesday.
Wednesday. So what would happen is, we have the regular meeting on the 14th to set the budget. The ad would go into the paper on Friday, the 18th. And then, again, we have to hold our final meeting within 2 to 5 days, between 2 to 5 days afterwards, to actually set, it's the said and done, we're finished. So that would give us, on the 23rd, Wednesday, to finish that would put us right at that 5-day deadline. My only concern about, and I think typically, Max, we have that final meeting on the last Monday of September every year. But what that does for us is, if for some reason there is any hiccup and something is written down wrong, it's voted wrong, we only have that short window of time until October the 3rd to set that right. So we would have to schedule another meeting, advertise, and so on. So this will give us that little bit of wiggle room if for some reason something else comes up. And I think a couple of years ago, we did have that issue where something was done incorrectly and we missed the deadline. So I want to make sure that we're not going to miss that deadline this year.
And then Patty, I noticed that the 3rd is on a Saturday. So would it then be the Monday of October would be when it would take effect? Or would it be that Friday, the 1st?
First.
No, it would go into effect that Friday.
Yep,
Yes, that, it
So
would
the
go into
first,
effect the
instead of the
1st.
3rd.
Correct,
yep.
Okay, so we really do got a time crunch here.
yes.
Okay.
And we have to work around the other agencies who are setting their final millage as well, setting their final budgets in place. So we have a list of those, and it looks like the 23rd is going to fall right in the middle there, where we're going to have to be in there.
St. Johns County has tentatively done for September 22nd, so we can't do that date. They haven't voted on that yet. They're having their meeting, I believe, tonight. Or not tonight. Tomorrow. So at any rate, that's what they're meeting at that time. So we've suggested the 23rd.
Would it be better then to do it on the 21st, that Monday? Can we do that? And then that way, if there is a hiccup, since now that we know Friday is when it would take effect, we've essentially lost a day the following week.
Could do that. That's a Monday.
Okay, so our second hearing, instead of Wednesday, the 23rd, having it on Monday, September 21st.
That give us 2 days, right?
Fine with me.
Yeah, that would give us 2 days, because it'll go on the 18th,
Right.
so we'll be at 3 days.
Yes,
That would work.
Okay, just to summarize again, we're having a budget meeting on Monday, September 14th at 5:01 PM, regular September meeting on September 14th at 6 PM, and then our second hearing on the budget would be Monday, September 21st.
Is that enough days for notice, proper notice?
Yes, it is.
Do they count calendar days or work days?
Calendar days.
Okay.
Okay. Max, is that it?
yes, if that meets with your approval, that's it.
And those are all at 6 o'clock?
Well, except the budget meeting on the 14th will be at 5:01.
Right.
And would it be at 5:01 on the 21st as well, Max?
That's up to the commission to decide.
It has to be, usually it is at 5:01.
So I would suggest 5:01 on November 21st.
September 20th.
September 21st.
Yeah. So both budget meetings would be at 5:01 PM.
Max, anything else tonight?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Commissioners, anything else? I give the floor to commissioners for any further comments.
None here?
On the phone, commissioners, any final comments?
Mayor?
No, do we need to make a motion for those 2 dates, Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead. I don't think, I mean, honestly, I think you could do it but yeah, go ahead.
Nothing. All
That
right.
would be appropriate.
I don't think we've ever done it in the past, but we shall do it tonight. I'll make a motion to set the next budget meeting for September, all right, where's my page? 14th at 5:01 PM, and the second hearing on the budget, Monday, September 21st at 5:01 PM. And the regular commission meeting is not changed.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call vote, please, Beverly.
Mayor England,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Casca,
Yes.
Commissioner George,
Yes,
Commissioner Rumwell. Commissioner Rumwell. Commissioner Samora.
Yes.
Commissioner Rumwell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously.
Public Works Director said you did not address item C on your agenda.
I think it was discussed briefly, but I don't know if that was fully.
Anything decided? This concerned the pay, proposed pay. You could address it now, or you could wait till September 14th.
I think we should wait till the next time when we have more time.
I believe we should wait till next time to talk about the proposed increase. And Commissioners, I think our Finance Director may be sending out some information to you on salary ranges, and take a look at that. You know, if you hear from industry-wide what corporate or what other salary increases are for fiscal year '21 or this year, the end of this year, it is a tough budget year for any business, but I recommend to you to look at the salary ranges, because I think some of our salary ranges are under market, and we may need to do a formal market study next year. So I recommend you take a look at it in that view. So we'll do that next time.
I did send out that Pepe survey to everybody. If you don't have it in your emails, please let me know so I can send it to you again. And I think we just need an adjournment.
I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor England?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Costco?
Yes.
Commissioner George?
Yes.
Commissioner Rumwell?
Yes.
Commissioner Samora?
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.